Hello and welcome to the Teach Music 21C podcast series. I'm Merlin Thompson, the creator and founder of Teach Music 21C, where music studio teachers are changing the tone of music lessons. And if you'd like to know what that looks like, just head over to Teach Music 21C, where you'll find a ton of resources. And I'm joined today by Lorrie Merrell from our executive team. Lorrie, welcome to the Teach Music 21C podcast series.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to see you. And, we've got a bit of a topic today because it's this whole notion that teachers are always doing two things when we teach. Number one, and yeah, number one. Number one is we are leading the way. And number two is we get really good at following our students' lead as well. Have you got any examples that you could share with us about this whole notion of, teachers leading the way and teachers following students' lead?
Well, I have no problem leading the way because I'm a teacher. It's the other part that's hard, and letting them lead the way. I try to be responsible in that with, I don't know, thinking of them, asking questions. Just trying to make it more equal instead of just me leading all the time.
Yeah, for sure. And that really comes to in terms of students choosing their own repertoire from time to time. But I also think there's other things going on. There's really simple things like asking the question. You were talking about asking good questions. One really good question for me is to start with, where do we need to spend time on today? So rather than me figuring out where we need to spend time on, I'm going to turn that right over to the student right from the get-go.
I think after they play a piece, a lot of times they'll say, where can I help you? How did you study it this week? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And how can I help you with this piece? And they'll pause and think about it. And then we go there. I'll say, do you want to do right or left? Or do you want to dig in deep? Do you want to talk more about the music? Where do you want to go with this? So that kind of helps because then they feel like they're more in charge. And I'm just there to help. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it is their journey is the thing that I want to remind myself about all the time. It's not me replicating my own journey, the journey that I might have had when I was a student. It's really about helping them to explore their own journey. And what can we do for them along that journey? Because obviously with the teacher leading the way notion, there will be things that they cannot discover on their own, or if they do, it will take a very long time. So we're going to shortcut that process. But at the same time, there are a whole bunch of things that we will never be aware of unless we ask for students' input.
Yeah, the part of asking really good questions is really important. Last night I had a teenage boy here who's just about ready to graduate high school, and his life is just crazy right now, crazy busy. And he comes and he plays this piece that we're getting ready for the concert. And I asked him, what do you like about this piece? And why did you choose this piece?
Sure.
And his answer was really nice. He says, I love this bass, and I love the part that the treble comes in, and it's so beautiful. And then I found out that I brought my husband in because sometimes I have him listen too, and he always has a really great input because he's a musician also. And it was a full circle moment. He said, well, my girlfriend is a dancer, and she did dance to this piece. And it was written for dancers. And I said, well, oh my goodness, put that in your brain. Are you thinking about that when you're playing this piece? Play it again and think of this heartbeat and think of this dancer and think of the beauty of the ballet. And it changed the piece. It was really cool. It was a full circle, like, oh, that's why you did that. And if you don't ask questions, you don't know those things.
Exactly. Yeah. And, I think one of the things that we have to talk about as well when we're talking about teachers leading the way and teachers following students' lead is that teachers may be worried about what will happen if we follow our students' lead. Are we going to get ourselves into a place where we don't know what to do? Are we going to get to a place where we don't have any answers to their questions? What are your thoughts on that whole thing about the nervousness, the nervous side, the side that brings anxiety in teachers when it comes to following students' lead?
That is very scary, especially in workshops where you teach and you kind of go off like that and ask questions, and it kind of makes you nervous about what they're going to say and how you're going to respond.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think if you just always respond with thoughts and maybe asking more questions
Mm-hmm.
and playing more and getting on their level and understanding where they're coming from, and teach with the idea of I respect you and I'm trying to understand you, and let's put this into the music and let's make this part of you, and let's make a connection with your thoughts in this music and my ability to give you whatever I can to enhance it.
Yeah, and there's a certain amount of recognition that teachers don't know everything. And and but saying that, we don't have to know everything because we have the world around us. We have that student who's in our studio who's a great resource as well. So, I always think of those days when students ask me questions and I go, ooh, I don't have the answer to that question. But I have my default answer is always, give me a week to see, and I'll see what I can come up with. So that's my first one. Give me a week to see what I can come up with. And then I'm also really comfortable with just turning it back to the student. And I always remember one of my students showed up one week and he said, Dr. Thompson, why am I here today? And I thought, okay, here's a little guy who is, grappling with the big questions in the world. And I didn't go to my default question. I went to my next one, which was, I think between the two of us, we can come up with some really good answers to that question. Why don't you go first? And so off he went. Yeah, he had his answers all figured out. And for me, it was just a really great opportunity for him to get recognition from me that his thoughts were worth hearing about.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I had a question this week. Somebody asked me, and I thought of when you had told me that before, that story, and I said, that's a really good question. Let me think about that.
Yeah.
That helped me because then I could think about it all week. And I think that the response I gave the next week would not have been the response I'd have given spontaneously.
Right.
So to give yourself time to respond appropriately, respectfully, and to let them know that you were thinking about it and that you care enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the themes that we keep coming back to in this podcast series is the benefits of reflection, and how we are in such a fast-paced society where people really want answers. I mean, we can go to ChatGPT and get an answer in 3 seconds if we want, and it's 85 paragraphs long, and so there's a real kind of I think impatience amongst all of us now, that we like to have immediate answers. And giving ourselves a week to think things over, a week to look to other resources, a week to talk about that particular topic with other students, so we get some real life personal input in. This whole reflective process is really such an important part of what we're doing.
It's so important, and it's such a great communication builder with them, and a relationship building with
Right.
them. And it's amazing how well you can get to know your students and their thoughts if you give them the chance. They're articulate, they're kind, they're thoughtful, and you never would have known that without the questions and the reflective partnership teaching. Yeah. It's been a great thing in the studio.
Yeah, so this whole notion of teachers leading the way, that's the expertise that we're bringing forward always. This notion of following students lead, that's our new area where we need to get expertise as well. But asking good questions, even just simple statements like, tell me more about what's behind all of that, is such an easy statement. I think I've got one more. I'm curious. I love to start phrases, sentences with those two words. I'm curious to know more about what you're thinking about. I'm curious to hear more about what that looks like in the piece. So I find I'm curious is a really fun way. And someone introduced me to a very similar one too. I wonder what would blah 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 is another great way to get students to just delve a little bit more into that topic.
Yeah, those are great questions. And they help the student think about it too, where they might not have thought about it otherwise. Yeah, it's the stepping out that's hard also. So you step in and then you have this conversation. And then at some point, you're not there to solve all their problems.
Right.
You're there to listen and understand and just know that, so that they know that you're there.
Yeah.
And then stepping back and letting them solve or them play, or just know that, this, I'm turning it over to you now, and you've got this, you can do it.
Right. Yep. Yep. So really great, just really great strategies that we're going to help out when they need our help, when they can't find things on their own. When we're going to allow that space to develop and see what happens when we do create that environment for them to solve problems, or to, use their imagination or brainstorm to get to another place. So all that's really, really fantastic. And all of this comes about because we're going to do two things. We're going to lead the way, and we're going to follow students' lead. And that probably is a great place to wrap things up this morning, because we got to the place of reflection and how important reflection is in the whole process, and how certain key phrases like I'm curious, or I'd like to know more, or even give me a week to think about it, or what are your thoughts on that matter? All those things can really help just to pull students into that active thinking process as well.
Yeah, those are great teaching strategies.
So I'm Merlin Thompson. This is the Teach Music 21C podcast series. I've been joined this morning by Lorrie Merrell. Lorrie, thanks for joining in.
Thanks so much.
And for all of you who've been listening today, thanks so much for joining in as well. And we hope to see you again next time. Bye for now.